So, the next step we have to do is the creation of an orchid butterfly. We will make the orchid butterfly with tools. I'll show you how we will do it. It is very handy with tools, is it? The desired shape is cut with a cutter. The desired pattern, the desired texture of the butterfly and bands are created with the help of a veiner. So, what do we need for this? Cutters, butterfly veiner. You will need a file to roll out the clay. Here I have a rolling pin, where the clay is blue, which we used at the beginning to create the column. You will need such a baby powder. You can end up using starch or talcum powder. I really like baby powder. It is very comfortable. And it is finely dispersed, it is very convenient to shake off, and it is practically invisible. Nor the clay stick to the veiner. Further, you will need a stack with a ball. You will need a main stack and nail scissors. Let's get started. I'll show you how I will do it. First, we take a small amount of clay. So, we knead it well. So, we knead it well so that the clay becomes soft. Now we need to shape. First, roll out the clay. So, putting clay in a film and roll out not too thin and not too thick, approximately 0.5 millimeters. So, to fit in size. So, now let's try it on by cutter. Now let's roll it out a little more. If you have a pasta machine, you can use it. This is a very convenient option. I use it manually. Look, it fits in size. Now, what are we doing? Raise it carefully. And with the cutting edge, I cut the desired shape. So, we remove it carefully. So, now, we remove excess clay. The ponytail stuck. Nothing is wrong. Let's cut it off. Let's make it a little longer. We remove the remnant of clay. Now watch. It is necessary to lightly touch the edge with your fingers. Make it thin, thin it. A little bit. Now, so, now what are we doing? Open the file and I powder it a little with baby powder. Do the same. You can do it with starch, as it suits you. Gently pry it with my fingers, or you can use the stack. So as not to spoil the shape. Turn over and do the same. We go through like this with the powder. So, now, the same thing I'm doing with the veiner. The clay took shape well and not stuck. Not this shape, but the texture is over. So, look, I gently apply it to the veiner and press it on top. I do it. I will not do the bottom because there are these tails. I'm just process a little on top and in the middle. I do not press hard, but with low intensity. Let's see what happened. Look, this is the shape of the butterfly. Veiners are completely different for a butterfly, so if you have a different veiner, you will have to adapt it to this specific veiner that you have. Because you have to manipulate in different forms and in different ways. Let's say with scissors. Use scissors to give the necessary shape. Here I am cropping to separate the wings a little. And the middle itself. Look, turn over. We look. So, now as these tails have been cut, moustache I will do probably a little bit like that. I will make a small triangle in the middle and on the other side too, a moustache. I cut it off, carefully. These are the thin antennae turned out. Now they are on the side where the notch recess is in the middle, namely where the hill is formed. This is our front side. We roll the antennae up. In this way. See what happens. This is how antennae are formed. And what else I need to do? Since the shape is not very pronounced, and we need to have a sufficiently voluminous shape, this edge is internal. I will form it with a light press with a ball. Lightly, don't overdo it. It depends on what kind of veiner you have. If it's not too curved, you can neatly shape with a stack with a ball. So, I formed. I have given a slight bend. Now, holding on to this bend with the thumb and forefinger, gently wind the outer side of the petal around the finger. See what I'm doing? I create a bend like this. A little bit. That is, I form the shape of the petal I need. In this way. Here's how it goes. This bend is interesting, isn't it? It is seen. Yes, so. Here I do with the other the same. With my thumb and forefinger, I press down on the notch we made. And we tighten this one carefully. Do not overdo it so that the clay does not break in any way. And the texture has not deteriorated much, in order not to damage the petal itself. Carefully, by creating a slight smooth curve. While the clay is soft, it lends itself quite easily and gives such a bend to the petal. Here's what happened. These are the wings of a butterfly. Now, when we put it on, this is what happens. The wings should be facing up. This is a side view. Now, what do we need to do? Now, the main thing is drying, correct drying. I will use a foam dryer for this. You can shape, if you don't have foam drying, you can shape with foil. Now I'll show you how you can do it too. If you have a drawing like this, then just put it in the groove so neatly. The wings are forming, look. The form we need is being formed. This is how you can connect the tops of the wings closer. They will dry out and the shape we need will be. Here's what happens. Look, this is the form we need. Because this is how the butterfly is located in an alive orchid. There will be a column and a boot inside. If you say there is no drawing, you can use the foil. Now for a second I'll show you. So I took a small piece of foil. We need to form such a depression, a cup. This is the event that you do not have the required form. Sufficiently formed. Easily. Make the shape we need. You may have to try a little, of course. Let's see. You can then put a dry piece of napkin down. Here's a cup. Now let's see if we can deliver shapes or not. Okay, a second. Here, look. In this case, you can shape it so neatly. That is, look, the wings are located far from each other. They pressed the foil on both sides and allocate it as needed. Here what happens. So that's what happens. The shape of the butterfly we need will form perfectly if dried in foil, in a foil mold. Therefore, as they say, you can come up with different methods of drying, if you certainly do not have such options. That's all, we leave it to dry. So, now I will show you how to make an orchid butterfly without a veneer, but simply with the help of hands and tools. So, what do we need for this? The cutter. Still, the cutter is needed to set the desired correct shape. You need blue clay. You will need a main stack. You will need such a stack with a ball, which is smaller. Here is its size. We will immediately measure it about 1 centimeter. And nail scissors. So, what do? We take a small amount of clay. Roll out. Do you know how I will do it? To prevent the clay from sticking to the film, I powder it sometimes. Either with starch or with a powder. Very comfortably. And the clay adheres to the film much better and does not stick. We roll it out approximately 1 millimeter thick, maybe even a little less. Again, this is done by eye. How do I check the thickness? First, I feel with my fingers. I look at the light. I hope you see it is not too transparent, a fairly dense layer of clay. Fine, because you don't need to do too thin, to roll too thin. So, we cut out. We remove the excess. And now, carefully, we are going to roll the wings. We go along the very edge to thin it a little, to make the steel thinner. And you can leave it for a couple of seconds. Of course, not for a couple, for 10-15 seconds. It's just like that in the air. To grab the clay, it becomes a little windy, to prevent it from sticking. Let it lie down a little and it will be much easier to remove. So, it's over. You can powder the top with powder. Now gently pry with a stack or with your fingers, so that you can take it off. We remove carefully so as not to tear. And the same with the back moon. Let's walk. Here's what happens. Now, what are we going to do? Look, here is the form. We have a blank. First, we need to trim the antennae because they're thick enough, and we need these ones. Therefore, I'll make them thinner a little. And you can make such a triangle in the middle. Some orchids have it. Not everyone. To the regret, I have not seen of all the orchids. I have a pink orchid and there is such a small triangle. So, we cut it out. Such antennae. It can be shaped gently with your fingers. Now I will remove all unnecessary from the frame so that nothing interferes. What do we do next? We put it in the palm of our hand and now we need to do it. Even over here. On the back of a thumb, on one side, gently draw a stack. We make a small depression. We make a deepening, small one. On the other hand, slightly form this depression with your fingers and press it so that there is such a shape. We make the tuft small. We form such a bend, a tuft. Now, where we have the bulge up, look. Not where we processed, but on the other hand, where we got this bulge. Take the stack with balls. Carefully. It's even too big. You can even take. So first we will trim the wings. I have an unfinished shape of the cutter. I will make a little more distance. The wings are longer. It depends on the shape of the cutter. If yours is like mine, then it is enough to trim a little, extend the size of the wings. So, now we continue. We take the stack with the main one, and from the back side, with this blunt part, we carefully walk along the base. Not by the wings themselves, but here. I press lightly. I form a small depression. Just a little bit. Don't overdo it. So what happens? So, now what are we going to do? You can roll up the antennae carefully. Do not overdo it so that they are not too curved or wrinkled. Twirling lightly over your finger. In this way. Now we will deal with the wings. How to give the wings the correct shape? Look, wings. Top, bottom of the wings. We press the inner part of the wings from the front side at the top. As if we walk a little with a ball. We make a deepening. It's at the top mostly. Top part. Until the middle. The same thing I do and from this side. In this case, the palm should be tense, so that not a relaxed palm, but a tense one, so that the surface is elastic enough. We pass carefully with a stack with a ball. See what happens. A slight bend is formed in this case. Is it seen? Now you can do it on the other side. And the wings, the lower part, without reaching the middle, we also go through the ball. Just a little bit. Again, create an additional bend. So, now we turn it over and see what happens. Now I'll go inside the top. And now it is advisable to use your fingers to shape the desired bend of the wings. See, as in the previous post, where I showed how we do with the help of veiners. Processing goes on after printing on the veiner, how we finish forming the petals completely. Look, take that place, the bend from the inside with your thumb and forefinger. And we twist this one and twist it like this. That is to the top of the wings. Using your fingers, gently twisting it around the index finger, slightly add a bend. Here's what happens. This is the form. Now it's the same on the other side. Keep the groove we created inside the top. And begin to gently pass his index finger and a large, creating a lot and hell bend. See how I'm doing. It is difficult to explain this in words, you just need to look visually. In principle, there is nothing difficult here. The main thing is not to tear, not to overdo it, do not overstretch. this is what happens. If it doesn't work right away, then try again. A little practice and everything will work out. So, here's what happens. Look, if you raise the wings, you get the shape we need. And with the help of a veiner. Of course, the veiner gives an additional texture, drawing a butterfly, but if you don't have one, you can perfectly do it with your hands and tools, and use a cutter. Now we need to use drying. We put it down. We form the shape we need. Let it dry. We straighten. Antennae. Look, this is the shape. That's all. Leave it to dry, then glue the handmade column again. And that's all. And you get a ready-made butterfly with the help of hands and tools. Such a beauty. I hope everything is clear. The next step is to create an anther for the orchid. We will make the boot from the same clay, from which we do the rest. The anther is really yellow, but we just paint it later. I take a small amount of clay. Now I will measure how many it will turn out. Somewhere 5 mm ball should turn out. We will measure it now. Yes, 5 mm. What will I do? Look. I make a ball and walk like this, make such a sausage. We take it with our fingers. We take the main stack and make such a hollow in the middle, pressing lightly, not completely. Here's what happens. Pressed down. Further, we need to give the desired shape. Look, I take 1/2 and pinch the very top with my fingers. Here's what happens. Such a form. I pinched it. Now we do the same on the other side. I pinched it. Here. It can be clearly seen here. This is the form we get. Now you can walk a little with a stack. Now we take it line this, press it on both sides, slightly, and so to the middle. We need to form just such a shape. Here is such a dick-shaped anther with a center. Slightly flattened edges, thinned. Here is a middle with a hollow. View from all sides. Here is a boot. Let's see now. If you attach it to a butterfly, and the size. The size is optimal. We don't need a boot, not too small, not too big. Medium size, suitable size, just for our butterfly. This form should work out. And now, in order to fix it, we need to glue it carefully. We take latex adhesives and glue to the middle. Carefully. Because the butterfly has dried out, gently straighten its wings, coat with glue and apply an anther. We apply and can be pressed with a stack. Not with your fingers, otherwise you can ruin the whole shape. We knead it. And press gently like this. Here is the boot stuck. Here we have such a wonderful shape. Now it is enough to leave it for a few minutes, 10-15 minutes, for the boot to wind up a little. Not completely dry, but a little on top of the clay dried out. And then we will already glue the column. It is to the anther that we will glue it to form a completely butterfly. Here is a butterfly.